The capture. The observation deck of the Vexaran warship provided a perfect view of Earth's destruction. General Kavex stood with his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back, watching orbital defense platforms explode like distant fireworks against the blackness of space. His scaled skin shimmered with iridescent blues and purples under the harsh lighting, betraying none of the weariness that came with his 3 centuries of conquest. "Another world falls to the Dominion," remarked Commander Tezra, her voice a melodic rasp. "The humans fought well, for primitives." Kavex turned his massive head toward his second-in-command. "They always fight. They never win." His telepathic abilities had already sampled the dying thoughts of millions below. Panic, despair, rage. All the usual emotional spectrum of a species facing extinction. Nothing surprising. Nothing new. Until he felt something different. A mind. Unlike the others, focused, analytical, studying him even as he studied it. "There's a survivor in the wreckage of their central research facility," he said. "Bring them to me. Alive." Hours later, Dr. Olivia Reed stood before him in the interrogation chamber, her lab coat torn and stained with blood that wasn't hers. Unlike most humans brought before him, she didn't tremble or beg. Her dark eyes met his without flinching, her short cropped hair framing a face marked with determination rather than fear. "You are Dr. Olivia Reed," Kavex stated, circling her, slowly. "Xenolinguistic specialist with a secondary focus in cognitive mapping. Your work attempted to understand non-human sentience, and you are General Kavex of the Vexaran Dominion," she replied evenly. "Known for destroying 17 civilizations across 3 galactic sectors. Your species communicates partially through telepathy, which you've weaponized for interrogation and control." Kavex paused, surprised by her composure. Most species broke simply being in his presence, feeling the weight of his mind pressing against theirs. "You've studied us." "Someone had to," she replied, "though I didn't expect to meet you personally." He extended his consciousness toward hers, expecting the usual fragile barriers of an untrained mind. Instead, he encountered something unexpected. A structured mental landscape, organized and fortified. Not the work of natural talent, but deliberate training. Impressive, he admitted, but insufficient. With a focused burst of psychic energy, Kavex breached her outer defenses. Pain flashed across her face, but she remained standing, her eyes never leaving his. "Earth has fallen," he said, projecting images of destruction directly into her mind. "Your resistance bases have been identified and eliminated. Any remaining human forces will be hunted and exterminated. There is no hope." "Then why am I here?" she asked through gritted teeth. "Because you're hiding something." He pushed deeper into her mind, searching for military secrets, hidden bases, anything that might explain her unusual mental resistance. Instead, he found memories. Olivia as a child staring at stars through a telescope. Olivia studying alien communication patterns. Olivia developing methods to shield human minds from telepathic intrusion after first contact with telepathic species decades earlier. "Your work," he realized aloud. "You developed Earth's psychic defense protocols." A thin smile crossed her face. Among other things, frustrated, Kavex withdrew from her mind. Physical interrogation would be necessary, something he usually delegated to subordinates. But this human intrigued him. "You will tell me everything eventually," he said. "All humans break." "Perhaps," she replied. "But first, may I ask you something, General?" The request was so unexpected that Kavex found himself nodding. "After 17 civilizations, has conquest made you happy?" The question struck him like a physical blow. Not because of its impertinence, but because in 3 centuries of warfare, no one had ever asked him such a thing. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Commander Tezra's voice came through the communication system. "General, we've detected unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Something survived our bombardment." Kavex turned back to Olivia, whose expression remained neutral despite the news. "It seems," he said, That we have more to discuss than I anticipated, Dr. Reed. Your planet may have hidden depths, much like yourself. He gestured to the guards. Take her to the secure quarters in my personal section, not the brig. As they led her away, Kaavex found himself still pondering her question. Had conquest made him happy? He couldn't remember the last time he'd even considered such a concept. Mind games. The secure quarters assigned to Olivia were surprisingly comfortable. A spacious chamber with curved walls of burnished metal and strange flowing furniture that adjusted to her body when she sat. A viewport revealed Earth, partially, obscured by the massive Vexaran fleet. Her home, wounded but not yet defeated if the alarms meant what she hoped. 3 days had passed since her capture. 3 days of careful conversation and mental sparring with General Kaavex. 3 days of giving him enough information to maintain interest without revealing anything truly valuable. The door hissed open, and Kaavex entered alone. Unusual, as he typically brought guards. His scaled skin seemed duller today, the iridescent patterns less vibrant. Your people are resilient, he said without preamble. We've discovered underground facilities with unexpected defenses, adaptive technologies that respond to our attacks. Olivia kept her expression neutral. Humans have always been good at surviving, at significant cost. Kaavex gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing scenes of destruction. Human, resistance fighters facing overwhelming Vexaran forces. These deaths are unnecessary. Tell me about Protocol Lazarus and I can end this quickly. She flinched despite herself. He shouldn't know that name. You've been probing my mind while I sleep, she realized. A slight flicker of his inner eyelids, the Vexaran equivalent of a smile. Your defenses weaken during REM sleep. Fragments emerge. Olivia stood and approached the viewport, watching distant explosions flare across what had once been North America. Each flash represented thousands of lives. She had to buy more time. I'll make you a proposal, she said. For each of my questions you answer honestly, I'll answer one of yours. Kaavex made a sound like stones grinding together. Laughter. You're not in a position to negotiate. Yet here you are, speaking to me instead of simply taking what you want. She turned to face him. You could torture me physically. You could bring your full telepathic abilities to bear and shred my mind, but you haven't. Why? The general's massive head tilted slightly. Perhaps I enjoy the challenge. Or perhaps, Olivia suggested, after 3 centuries of conquest, you're bored. Everyone fears you. Everyone either fights or surrenders. But no one talks to you. Kaavex's pupilless eyes narrowed to slits. Very well, Doctor. Your game. 1 question for 1 question. She nodded. Why do the Vexarans expand their empire? What drives your species to conquer? Survival, he answered without hesitation. Our homeworld was dying. Resources depleted. We evolved as a predatory species and adapted those instincts to interstellar strategy. We take what we need to survive. But you've gone far beyond survival, Olivia noted. Your empire controls resources thousands of times beyond your needs. That was 2 questions. Kaavex said. My turn. What is Protocol Lazarus? Olivia chose her words carefully. A contingency plan. A way to preserve something of humanity if our civilization falls. What specifically does it preserve? She shook her head. 1 question, 1 answer. Those were the terms. A rumble of frustration emanated from the general, but he nodded. Ask your next question. Have you ever questioned your empire's methods? The complete destruction of civilizations rather than integration or coexistence? Kaavex moved to the viewport, his massive frame blocking the view of Earth. Early in our expansion, we attempted coexistence with 3 different species. Each time they eventually developed weapons against us, targeting our telepathic abilities. The last attempt resulted in the death of over 60% of our population. We do not make the same mistake twice. The vulnerability in his answer surprised her. You fear other species. We understand them, he corrected. As we understand humans. You would do the same in our position. Some would, she acknowledged. Not all. Irrelevant. The aggressive survive. Now my question. What is the significance of the energy signatures we detected? Our sensors indicate technology beyond your civilization's development timeline. Olivia tensed. This was dangerous territory. Some theoretical research progressed faster under pressure. Necessity driving innovation. A partial answer, Kavex observed. But I'll accept it for now. He moved closer, towering over her. Final question for today. Why aren't you afraid of me, Dr. Reed? I've destroyed worlds. I've extinguished entire species. Yet you look at me as if studying an interesting specimen. Olivia smiled faintly. Because I've spent my career trying to understand non-human cognition, and now I have direct access to one of the most powerful alien minds in the galaxy. From a research perspective, it's fascinating. Even as your world burns, especially then, understanding you might be humanity's last contribution to the universe. Kavex was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he extended his hand, a gesture he must have learned from human records. Show me, he said. Show you what? How you see me. Open your mind and show me how a human xenolinguist perceives a Vexaran. Olivia hesitated, then cautiously took his hand. The contact was electric, his scaled skin surprisingly warm. Instead of the brutal mental invasion she expected, she felt a gentle request for access. Carefully, she lowered her defenses just enough to share her professional analysis of Vexaran communication patterns, social hierarchies, and evolutionary psychology. What she didn't expect was the reciprocal exchange, glimpses of how he perceived humans, flashes of other worlds he'd encountered. The vast complexity of Vexaran sensory experience that transcended mere telepathy. When they separated, both were breathing heavily. Fascinating, she whispered. Indeed. Kavex's voice sounded different, thoughtful. Your mind is unusual. Before she could respond, his communication device activated. Commander Tezra's voice was tense. General, urgent situation requiring your attention. The human resistance has deployed something new. Something impossible. Kavex moved toward the door but paused to look back at Olivia. Tomorrow we will discuss Protocol Lazarus in detail. No more games. After he left, Olivia returned to the viewport, watching as a strange blue light began to spread across Earth's surface. Right on schedule. Not games, General, she murmured. Strategy. Unexpected alliance. The ship shuddered violently, throwing Olivia against the wall. Emergency lights pulsed crimson as the distant sound of explosions echoed through the Vexaran vessel. She steadied herself as the artificial gravity fluctuated, sending loose objects floating momentarily before crashing back down. Something had gone very wrong, but not with Earth's defenses. The door to her quarters burst open. Kavex stood there, his normally immaculate armor scorched and dented. Dark fluid that she assumed was blood seeped from a gash across his shoulder. We're leaving, he growled, tossing her a small device. Put this translator on your wrist. We won't have time for mental communication. What's happening? Olivia caught the device and secured it around her wrist. Insurrection. Kavex's telepathic signature radiated rage and something she hadn't felt from him before, concern. Commander Tezra has staged a coup with support from the Science Division. They believe my approach to Earth has been inefficient. A nearby explosion rocked the ship again. Why come for me? Olivia asked as she followed him into the corridor. Because you're valuable intelligence, he replied, but his mental signature betrayed uncertainty. And because they intend to use methods on you that would leave nothing of your mind intact. They moved swiftly through the ship's arterial passages, avoiding the main corridors. Twice they had to hide as groups of armed Vexarans passed, their scales glowing with combat phosphorescence. Your little rebellion on Earth was perfectly timed, Kavex muttered as they entered what appeared to be a maintenance shaft. It divided our forces, created confusion, Tezra saw an opportunity. Not our plan, Olivia admitted, but I'll take the lucky coincidence. A sharp hissing sound came from behind them. Kavex shoved her roughly aside as energy bolts scorched the wall where she'd been standing. 3 Vexaran soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor, weapons raised. "Traitor," one called out in their clicking language, which her translator rendered in a flat monotone. "The High Command has declared you compromised by human influence." Kavex responded with startling speed. His arm shot forward, and Olivia felt a concussive wave of telepathic energy that sent the lead soldier crumpling to the floor, dark fluid leaking from his sensory organs. The remaining 2 fired again, but Kavex had already drawn his own weapon, a device that unleashed a swirling vortex of energy that engulfed both attackers. "We need to reach the auxiliary hangar," he said, continuing forward as if the deadly encounter were routine. "My personal transport should still be secure." "And then what?" Olivia asked, struggling to keep pace with his long strides. "Then we survive." He paused at a junction, checking both directions. "If we can reach the Doran Nebula, we might find sanctuary among the trading outposts there." "You're abandoning your empire just like that?" Kavex's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of agitation she'd learned to recognize. "My empire has abandoned me. Tezra has convinced the science division that my interest in understanding humans instead of simply eradicating them shows weakness. By now she's likely reporting to High Command that I've been mentally compromised." "Have you been?" Olivia asked quietly. He didn't answer, instead pressing his scaled hand against a panel that opened a hidden doorway. Beyond it lay a small hangar containing a sleek vessel unlike the brutal, angular ships of the main Vexaran fleet. This craft had smooth, almost organic lines. "We have approximately 4 minutes before security overrides my access," Kavex said, approaching the ship. "Unless you prefer to stay and explain Protocol Lazarus to Tezra's scientists." "I'll take my chances with you," Olivia replied, following him up the boarding ramp. The ship's interior was surprisingly compact, clearly designed for a small crew. Kavex took the pilot's position, while Olivia strapped herself into what she assumed was the co-pilot's seat. "Can you fly this thing alone?" she asked as his hands moved across the controls with practiced efficiency. "This vessel is symbiotic with its pilot," he explained, "designed for my exclusive neural pattern." The ship hummed to life, systems illuminating. In sequences of blue and purple, through the viewport, Olivia saw the hangar doors begin to close. "They've detected us," she warned. Kavex didn't respond verbally, but the ship surged forward with incredible acceleration. They cleared the closing, doors with barely inches to spare emerging into open space. Olivia gasped at the view. The massive Vexaran command ship was in chaos, sections venting atmosphere while smaller vessels fired upon one another. Beyond them, Earth glowed blue with the strange energy that had so concerned the Vexarans. "What is that?" Kavex asked, nodding toward the planet while executing evasive maneuvers to avoid pursuit craft. Olivia hesitated, then decided truth was her best option. "Protocol Lazarus, it's not a weapon. It's a planetary shield. A last-ditch technology combining physical barriers with psychic dampers specifically designed to block Vexaran telepathic abilities." "Impossible. Such technology is beyond human capability." "Not entirely human," she admitted. "We had help. From refugees of worlds your people destroyed, scientists who escaped with knowledge you thought eliminated." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "The resistance bases weren't military installations. They were research centers." "Integration, not annihilation," Olivia said. "That was always our approach." A warning alarm blared through the ship. 3 Vexaran attack vessels had broken away from the conflict and were pursuing them. "They're targeting our engines," Kavex reported, his hands dancing across the controls. "Hold on." The ship dove sharply, then spiraled in a maneuver that would have been impossible for human physiology to withstand without the ship's compensating systems. 2 pursuers collided trying to follow, erupting into a brief oxygen-starved fireball. The remaining vessel fired repeatedly, each shot coming closer. "We need to reach jump velocity," Kavex said tensely. 10 more seconds." Olivia watched as the distance between them and their pursuer narrowed. "We're not going to make it. We will." There was iron certainty in his voice. "I need you to do something. There's a neural interface to your right. Place your hand on it." "What? Why?" "Because this ship responds to Vexaran telepathy, and our pursuer is using the same ability to anticipate my maneuvers. Your human mind might create enough interference to confuse them." Hesitantly, Olivia placed her palm on the glowing panel. Instantly, she felt a connection, not just to the ship but to Kaavex himself. Their minds linked through the vessel's systems. It was disorienting, exhilarating, terrifying. Through his perception, she felt the pursuing pilot's telepathic probes seeking to predict their course. Without conscious thought, her trained mental defenses adapted, creating patterns of static and false impressions. The pursuer faltered, their next shots going wide. Now! Kavex's thought echoed through their connection as the ship surged forward, into what felt like the fabric of space itself stretching around them. Stars blurred, and the pursuit craft vanished as they entered jump space. The neural connection broke, leaving Olivia gasping and disoriented. That was... She struggled for words. "Unprecedented," Kavex finished, his voice holding new respect. "No non-Vexaran has ever successfully interfaced with our technology." "What happens now?" she asked, looking at the swirling chaos of jump space through the viewport. "Now we are both traitors to our kinds," he said simply. "You've helped an enemy commander escape. I've abandoned my post and taken a human, a valuable intelligence, asset beyond my empire's reach." "I didn't see many alternatives," Olivia pointed out, "nor I." Kavex's inner eyelids flickered in what she now recognized as his version of a smile. "It seems we are, as humans say, in this together." The ship sped onward through the swirling dimension, carrying them toward an uncertain future. Enemies become reluctant allies by the chaos of war and revolution. The journey. Home 3 weeks in jump space had changed things between them. The cramped confines of Kavex's vessel, which Olivia had learned was called the Veshtaral, or Wind Seeker, had forced proximity that gradually transformed from wary coexistence to something approaching trust. "We'll reach the trading outpost at Kalari Station tomorrow," Kavex announced, studying navigation charts at the ship's central console. His posture had relaxed over their time together, the rigid military bearing giving way to something more natural. Olivia looked up from the Vexaran historical texts she'd been studying on a data tablet. "Will it be safe? Your face must be well known throughout the galaxy." "Vexarans all look alike to most species," he replied with that eye flicker smile. "And Kalari caters to those avoiding attention. We'll blend in." She doubted that. Even among aliens, a 7-foot telepathic reptilian would stand out. But she kept that thought carefully shielded behind her mental barriers, a courtesy they'd established early in their journey. "What's our plan once we're there?" she asked. Kavex's scaled hands paused over the console. "I need to contact certain allies. There are factions within the Empire who have questioned our expansion policies for decades. Tezra's coup may have forced their hand." A Vexaran civil war? The prospect was both hopeful and terrifying. Perhaps. But first we need information. He turned to face her. "The Lazarus shield protecting Earth, how long will it last?" It was a question he'd asked several times and she'd always deflected. This time she decided to answer truthfully. The shield was designed to last approximately 6 months at full strength. After that, power reserves will begin to fail. 6 months, he repeated. "Not enough time for your people to evacuate or rebuild defenses." "No." Olivia set the tablet aside. Just enough time to hope for a miracle. Their eyes met across the cabin. Over weeks of conversation, mental exchanges, and shared survival, she'd learned to read his alien expressions, the subtle shifts of scale color, the positioning of his sensory ridges. "You want to go back," he said. It wasn't a question. "Earth is my home," she replied simply. "Whatever happens to it, I should be there." Kavex moved to the viewport, watching the distorted reality of jump space. "If I return, I face execution. As a traitor. If you return, you face likely death when the shield fails. Yet here we are discussing it as a possibility. Olivia joined him at the viewport. 3 weeks ago, you would have dismissed the notion immediately. 3 weeks ago, I knew who I was. His voice held an unfamiliar note, uncertainty. 3 centuries of conquest following orders, believing in the necessity of our expansion. Your mind has complicated things. The mental exchanges they'd shared had been transformative for both of them. Through their connected consciousness, she had experienced the immense weight of his centuries, the sterile loneliness of command, the growing doubts he'd suppressed beneath duty and routine. In turn, he had witnessed her memories of Earth, not just its strategic value or military capacity, but its beauty, diversity, the complex tapestry of human relationships that defined her species. I've been thinking, she said carefully, about what you told me regarding the 3 species who betrayed Vexaran trust. What if the problem wasn't coexistence itself, but the approach? Forced integration under conquest creates resistance. Voluntary alliance builds strength. Theory versus survival, he countered, but without conviction. The Vexaran Empire has enough resources to sustain itself for millennia, Olivia pressed. What if expansion stopped? What if, instead of the next conquest, your people focused on stability, on creating something lasting rather than consuming what others have built? Kavex's scales shifted to deeper blues, a sign of deep thought she'd come to recognize. You suggest I join these dissident factions, become a revolutionary against my own empire? I suggest you become what you were meant to be. Olivia took a risk and placed her hand on his scaled arm. Not Kavex the conqueror, but Kavex the transformer, the one who changed the course of an empire. A proximity alarm shattered the moment. Kavex moved swiftly to the console. We're being pursued, he said, voice tense. Vexaran hunter ships. They must have tracked our jump signature. How is that possible, Tezra? His voice hardened. She always was brilliant with tracking technology. He began activating defensive systems. We won't reach Kalari in time. Olivia joined him at the controls. Options? Few. His hands moved rapidly across the navigation system. There's an uncharted debris field nearby, remnants of an ancient battle. We might lose them there. The ship shuddered as they changed course, dropping out of jump space into normal reality. Through the viewport, Olivia saw the glittering field of destruction. Twisted metal and shattered hulls spanning thousands of kilometers. Whose battlefield is this? She asked as they dove into the maze of wreckage. Unknown. These ships match no known configuration in Vexaran records. Kavex guided them deeper into the debris. The battle appears to have occurred at least, millennium ago. Behind them, 3 Vexaran hunter ships emerged from jump space, weapons charging. They're hailing us, Olivia reported from the communications console. Kavex nodded grimly. Put it through. Commander Tezra's face appeared on the screen, her scales glowing with the vibrant reds of victory. General Kavex, the High Command sends their regards and orders for your immediate termination. Surrender the human researcher, and we may consider leniency. You've overreached, Tezra, Kavex replied calmly. The High Command would never authorize my execution without trial. Times change, General. The Empire requires new leadership for new challenges. Her eyes shifted to Olivia. Dr. Reed, a fascinating specimen. Our scientists are eager to examine how you've corrupted a Vexaran mind. Olivia didn't respond, instead studying the ancient wreckage around them. Something about the design of these ships seemed strangely familiar. An idea formed, desperate, possibly suicidal, but their only chance. Kavex, she whispered, take us deeper into the field, to the largest wreck. The massive derelict loomed before them, a titan among the ancient battlefield's ruins. Its curved hull, though scarred by millennia of cosmic radiation and micrometeorite impacts, still retained traces of once gleaming designs that spiraled in mathematical sequences. It's powered down but intact, Kavex reported, scanning the structure as they approached. How did you know? Because I've seen this design before, Olivia replied, excitement and trepidation mingling in her voice. In classified archives, the species that helped us develop the Lazarus shield, they called themselves the architects. They were supposed to be extinct. Behind them, Tezra's hunter ships closed in, their weapon systems fully charged. "Final warning, traitor," Tezra's voice crackled through the comm. "Surrender or be destroyed." Kavex cut the communication and turned to Olivia. "What's your plan?" The architects built integrated systems. Their technology responds to compatible thought patterns. She pointed to a large hangar opening in the derelict side. "If we can dock inside and I can access their systems, you believe 1,000-year-old alien technology will respond to you?" Kavex asked skeptically. "It's not about me." Olivia met his gaze steadily. "It's about us. The architects designed their systems to recognize cooperative consciousness, different species working in harmony. Their entire civilization was built on the concept of symbiotic relationships." Understanding dawned in Kavex's eyes. "Like our neural connection in the ship." "Exactly, but more powerful." Without another word, Kavex guided the Veshtarl toward the hangar, skillfully evading the first volley of energy blasts from the pursuing ships. The vessel slipped through the ancient opening, entering a cavernous space where dozens of smaller craft lay dormant. "The atmospheric containment systems are still functioning," Kavex noted with surprise as readings appeared on his console. "Low power, but active." They docked beside what appeared to be a central control platform. Outside, the hunter ships hesitated at the hangar entrance, unwilling to follow blindly into unknown territory. "They'll come eventually," Olivia said, unstrapping from her seat. "We need to hurry." They disembarked onto the ancient deck. Despite its age, the structure showed no signs of decay. Surfaces gleamed with subtle patterns that shifted as they moved, responding to their presence. "The ship is awakening," Kavex observed as lights began to illuminate their path. At the center of the platform stood a console unlike anything Olivia had seen before. Not flat screens or projection, but a three-dimensional interface of light and substance that hovered above a circular base. "This is it," she breathed, approaching reverently. "The control node." Behind them, alarms sounded as the hunter ships entered the hangar. "Whatever you're planning, do it quickly," Kavex warned, drawing his weapon. Olivia placed her hands on the interface, feeling a gentle resistance like pushing through water. Nothing happened. "It needs both of us," she realized. "A Vexaran and a human, working together." Kavex hesitated, then holstered his weapon and joined her. As his scaled hands entered the interface beside hers, the entire platform surged with light. Their minds connected instantly, not the limited link they'd shared before, but a complete merger of consciousness. Through this connection, they felt the ancient ship awakening around them, systems activating in cascading sequences. They understood its purpose now. Not a warship, but a sanctuary vessel, designed to preserve diverse life forms and foster cooperation between species. In unified thought, they directed the ship's defense systems toward the hangar entrance. A shimmering barrier materialized, blocking Tezra's forces from advancing further. "Impossible," Tezra's voice came through, tinged with genuine fear for the first time. "This technology, the High Command must be informed." Through their connected consciousness, Olivia and Kavex accessed the ship's communication systems, broadcasting directly to the Vexaran fleet orbiting Earth. "This is General Kavex," they spoke in unison, their voices overlapping in perfect harmony. "What you witness is the technology of the architects, not a weapon, but a means of cooperation. For 3 centuries, the Vexaran Dominion has expanded through conquest. Believing isolation was our only security, we were wrong. The ship's sensors showed them Earth, still protected by its blue shield, and the Vexaran fleet in disarray following. Tezra's coup. The human protocol Lazarus was never intended as a last stand, they continued. It was an invitation, a demonstration that different species can share technology and strength without domination. The shield protecting Earth can be modified to protect Vixara as well, ending our need for constant expansion and resource acquisition. Through their merged consciousness, they felt the ship accelerating, ancient engines coming to life with power that defied the vessel's age. Jump capabilities activated, creating a portal large enough for the entire structure. To those in the Vexaran fleet who have questioned our path of endless conquest, now is the time to choose a different way. We are setting course for Earth to demonstrate what cooperation can achieve. The derelict ship, no longer derelict, moved toward the jump portal, leaving Tezra's smaller vessels behind. As their consciousness remained merged in the architect interface, Olivia and Kavex shared a private thought beyond their broadcast message. This changes everything it already has. 3 days later, the architect vessel emerged from jump space near Earth. The Vexaran fleet, divided by Tezra's failed coup and Kavex's unexpected return, held position as the massive ship approached. On the bridge of the architect vessel, now humming with restored power and purpose, Olivia and Kavex stood side by side before a delegation that included both human resistance leaders and Vexaran officers, loyal to neither Kavex nor Tezra, but to the future of their species. The architects didn't vanish, Olivia explained to the assembled group. They seeded their technology throughout the galaxy, waiting for species who could overcome their differences and work together. This ship is both test and reward. And the Lazarus Shield? Asked Dr. Javier Santos, Earth's lead scientist for the Defense Project. Can be expanded and adapted, Kavex replied. Not just to protect Earth, but to establish a network of cooperative settlements. The beginning of something new. Senior Commander Veshtal, the highest-ranking Vexaran who had answered their call, stepped forward. The High Command remains divided. Many still believe conquest is our only path. Then we start with those who are ready for change, Kavex said. An alliance of willing participants, Vexaran, human, and eventually others. There will be resistance, Dr. Santos warned, on both sides. Of course, Olivia agreed. Change is never easy, but we have something powerful on our side. She gestured to the ship around them. Living proof that cooperation creates something greater than conquest ever could. As the delegation dispersed to begin the complex work of forging this unprecedented alliance, Olivia and Kavex returned to the architect interface. Their hands entered the luminous field together, minds connecting once more through the ancient technology. In that shared consciousness, beyond words or individual thought, they experienced something neither had expected when their journey began, a vision of possibility. Not just survival, but transformation. Not just peace, but partnership. The former conqueror and the human who changed his mind looked out at Earth through the vessel's viewport. The blue shield shimmered below, no longer humanity's last defense, but the first step toward a different future. Around them, the architect ship continued its quiet awakening, systems designed for harmony responding to their united purpose. This vessel, once thought to be a relic of a vanished civilization, was becoming something new. Just as they were. The end is just the beginning, they thought together as stars reflected in the viewport before them. Countless worlds waiting to hear their story.